Let's take a look at organizational culture. Organizational culture is a trending topic in academic research, in organizational theory, and management practice. Culture is central in all aspects of organizational life. Even if it receives little attention, how people in an organization think, value, and act is guided by ideals and beliefs of a culture, socially shared in terms of their nature. Senior organizational members are always, in one way or another, managing culture, underscoring what's important and what is less so, and framing how the corporate world should be understood. In most contemporary organizations, corporate culture receives a lot of attention and is seen as crucial. However, even in these cases where top managers have a strong awareness of the significance of culture, there's often a lack of a deeper understanding of how people and organizations function in terms of culture. Culture is significant and complex, and difficult to use in a thoughtful way. It's often difficult to attain a high level of cultural awareness to guide action. Still, a strong case can be made for making an interest in corporate culture in relation to performance. Managers frequently ascribe success such as rapid growth to their culture. It's tempting to emphasize the significance of corporate culture for performance, growth, and success. There's a wide variation in how organizations define the term organizational culture. The concept of culture might refer to ideas and cognition, symbols and meanings, as values and ideologies, as rules and norms, as behavior patterns, structures and practices, and so on. Frequently, culture seems to refer to little more than a social pattern. It could therefore be said that in many cases the term should be abandoned in favor of something like informal behavior patterns, norm systems, or simply social pattern. Viewing culture broadly as a shared and learned world of experiences, meanings, values, informs people in a way that's consistent with a variety of approaches to the conduct of concrete study. The term organizational culture may be used as an umbrella concept for a way of thinking which takes a serious interest in cultural and symbolic phenomena. It's the meaning aspect of what's being socially expressed, and it's thus visible and invisible at the same time. Culture is not best understood as a homogeneous, cohesive, and casual force, but as something that people do. It's an emergent, dynamic, situationally adaptive, and co-created in dialogue. Culture is central for governing the understanding of behavior, social events, institutions, and processes. Though there are many significant concepts to understanding culture, symbols and meanings might be the most prevalent. Meaning refers to how an object or word is interpreted. It points to what something is seen as standing for, making meaning an object relevant and meaningful. Individual meanings are certainly important, and they may vary considerably within a group, but a cultural understanding concentrates on shared orientations within an organization. A symbol can be defined as an object, a word or statement, a kind of action or material phenomenon. It stands ambiguously for something else and or something more than the object itself. A symbol is rich in meaning. It condenses a more complex set of meanings in a particular object and thus communicates meaning in an economic way. In an organizational context, it's the collective symbolism that is the most interest. In the case of culture, we have a frame of reference of beliefs, expressive symbols, and values, by means of which individuals define their environment, express their feelings, and make judgments. Culture is the creation of meaning through which human beings interpret their experiences and guide their actions. Social structure is the form with action takes place in terms of a network of social relationship which actually exists. Culture and social structure represent different abstractions of the same phenomena. Culture describes social action as depending on the meaning it has for those involved, while social structure describes social action from the point of view of its consequences of the functioning of the social system. Discontinuity between social and cultural structures can occur, for example, when there's a change in formal rules or routines which is not matched by a change in cultural pattern. Culture meanings may also change, even if the form or structure is the same. Studying the cultural, therefore, is not the same as studying the social structure. Cultural analysis is, of course, not limited to studying the shared meanings and ideas alone. Cultural analysis may be applied to all kinds of social phenomenon. The point is that cultural research concentrates on meanings anchored and transmitted in a symbolic form. Cultural meanings guide thinking, feeling, and acting. It's thus difficult to argue that culture is not important. Cultural analysis is more delimited and precise as it's directed as a specific phenomenon. Culture is a prescriptive rather than robust object. Studies on organizational culture grew rapidly after the corporate culture boom of the 1980s. Among practitioners, it is to some extent connected to industry. In younger, more innovative and knowledge-intensive businesses, there seems to be a stronger interest than in more mature and rationalization-oriented ones. But during periods of change, including a merger and acquisition situation, culture often receives considerable attention, also in companies where management of culture is not normally seen as a top priority. Organizational culture, as it addresses the lived experiences of people, is important. It connects the organization as a whole with everyday experiences and individual action. Changes in values and lifestyles among employees and in society tend to make corporate control more complicated, and it becomes more important to involve workers in the company. People do not expect to be bossed. Change in emphasis from control of behavior and measurement of outputs to control of employees' attitudes and commitment becomes crucial for the employees' service-mindedness and positive appearance to customers. Business leaders, like other conventional authorities, are increasingly faced with an unwillingness of subordinates to be pushed around or to accept the message at face value. Instead, mergers need to convince subsidiaries or subordinates, and perhaps even themselves and their customers and partners, about beliefs, values, and ideals to strive for and accept as guidelines. The idea is that highly motivated and flexible people acting out of their own free will do the right thing. People are expected to voluntarily work harder and perform better, which also reduces the cost of monitoring and control. As with a lot of subject, fashion and trends make topics wax and wane in terms of the interest that they attract. Any social science project should carefully reflect upon and position itself with respect to the issue of its basic purpose or rationale. There are three basic motives or interests in which any knowledge-seeking project is grounded. The technical interest aims to develop knowledge of causal relationships in order to manipulate and control variables for the sake of accomplishing certain wanted outcomes. The practical interest aims to achieve understanding about human experience without any particular concern for the utility of that knowledge. The participatory interest aims to liberate humans from repressive forces that prevent free choice. Organizational culture is one of the key areas of management and organization studies as well as practice. An important task of managers is to try to manage the understandings of their subordinates. Dealing with technical issues, budgets, information, systems, calls for people to ascribe a positive and similar meaning for those who to work well. Culture is created without anyone really thinking about it. All management takes place within culture. This includes organizational culture, but also societal level, industry level, and sub-organizational level culture. Understanding approaches to organizational culture can facilitate better choices in the development of cultural perspective. Much talk about corporate culture reduces culture to a set of espoused and vague values that do not vary much between organizations. More specific and deeper description and interpretation are called for. This work calls for careful reflection on what different concepts of culture can reveal.